This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
When's the last time we as Detroit sports fans have had a situation where one of our teams is in a winner-take-all? It's been a while, right?
Last I can remember is the Tigers. And I don't think that ended very well.
I can't remember if that wild card situation was before or after the last Wings series where I think they went to a Game 7. It's been a while.
Are we counting Lions' actual wild card games? I wouldn't count that. I would say regular season winner take all.
Well, I mean, in 2014, you had the Lions wildcard games. That's a winner-take-all situation. I mean,
I didn't know we were counting like actual playoff games. That's why.
I would consider any game where winner moves on.
Mm-hmm.
So either
Game 7, a wild card.
Game 7, a wild card, a Game 163, a week.
Game 5 if you're in the first round.
Yes, Game 5 if you're in the first round. You know, something along those lines. It's exciting. Now, if I had told you a year and a half ago that the next team to be in a winner-take-all situation this time would be the Detroit Lions, what would you have said to me?
I would have said, how far down the line are you looking? Like, how bad is this going to be?
I probably would have called you a liar.
I would have assumed you were predicting that the Red Wings and Pistons rebuild was going to be a complete failure.
Or the rebuilds were so good they never had a winner-take-all moment because they just swept.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
That's what it is. Obviously, it's not the case, and this winner-take-all moment that is potentially coming up for the Lions is happening a lot sooner than most of us expected. So we're going to touch on that today, along with some Pistons talk as well. Got a couple conversations to have there, along with the I don't want to call it a brawl, the scuffle.
It was not a brawl.
The scuffle between the Pistons and the Magic and Killian Hayes and Mo Wagner.
It wasn't anything more than what happens in a normal NBA fight, but there were someone actually got knocked out this time. That's all.
Did he actually get knocked out?
I'm about to pose this. This is
okay.
There's
fair.
a bit of a conspiracy brewing.
We'll save it. But obviously we're going to be talking about that along with some other things. But we wanted to first bring up and mention the biggest, I guess, thing going on in sports. It's obviously
still pretty fresh as of this recording.
Yes, it is still very fresh. Happened literally quite literally just last night. The very catastrophic and scary situation with Damar Hamlin and the Buffalo Bills last night. I don't want to speculate as to what happened. You know, I'm not one. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not going to pretend to be one, and I'm not going to.
There apparently are a lot of them on Twitter, though.
Are you surprised? After the last 3 years, this surprises you? The last 3 years of Twitter.
I didn't know we had this many. I mean, I thought there was like a bit of a shortage in the country, but I guess I'm mistaken.
I don't know what happened. You don't know what happened. You know, people on Twitter don't know what happened. All we can say is we wish for the best recovery for him, his family, his teammates who had to, you know, endure a catastrophic experience. It's not fun watching CPR happen. It's not. No. It's very scary. It's very traumatizing.
I mean, you could look at the look on the players' faces.
Right.
I mean, to see how traumatic it is to see someone like that.
Especially someone you love and care about. Like that. Yeah. That makes it even harder. But, you know.
And CPR in real life doesn't look like it looks in the movies. It's a lot more.
It is scary.
Yeah, it's a lot scarier than it is in the movies.
So, you know, I don't want to talk too much about it. I don't want to speculate at all. I just want to say best wishes to Hamlin, his family, his friends, his loved ones, his teammates, his organization, everybody out there, and wish for a quick recovery and a healthy recovery for him especially. So wanted to kind of mention that before we kind of get into things. Obviously, this is the Fan Report Wars by fans.
For fans.
We are brought to you by the Detroit Sports Podcast. You can follow them at Detroit Podcast on Twitter. You can find us at Real Fan Report. I'm Nick, and with me, as always, is my boy Andrew. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
Did you have a good New Year's?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
We celebrated New Year's together this year. We had a pretty good time.
did. When's the last time we did that? I feel like it's been a year or two.
I honestly I don't think I did anything during the last 2 New Years. Like,
Was that a COVID reasoning? I feel like it was.
yeah, I mean, not a lot of people had parties, and then
Yeah,
even then it was
okay.
just like,
That makes
staying
sense.
home.
That makes sense. Well, we got to this year. It was a lot of fun. We hope that everybody out there that's listening also had a good New Year. We have, I'm going to say it, as Detroit sports fans, we have a lot to be excited about for 2023. We can close the door on the tough 2022s that we had and look forward to a hopefully exciting 2023 with all of our teams. It seems that our teams are either starting to turn a corner, have potentially turned a corner, or are now taking the steps to turn that corner and get back into the winning traditions that the city of Detroit and its sports teams are used to seeing. So happy New Year to everybody out there. But let's get into it. Do you want to start with Pistons or Lions today?
So let's get the Pistons out of the way. They probably won't take long anyways.
Let's do it.
I guess first topic at hand, we'll go with we'll go in chronological order. Last week, I mean, as by the time you've heard this is super old news, but a little bit of a scuffle on the court between the Pistons and the
Was
Magic.
it Steph Curry that said a kerfuffle in a press conference like years ago?
I remember the term kerfuffle. Couldn't tell you who said it.
I want to say it was like a reporter said something asked him about a kerfuffle on the floor, and he said kerfuffle. That's a word right there. I think that's what it was. But let's for the fun of it, call it a kerfuffle.
But loose
What
ball
that means, by the way.
loose ball in the backcourt. Mo Wagner, no one's going to dispute, clearly dirty play, shoving Killian into his own bench, kind of needlessly. But then the retaliation was kind of what escalated the situation. Mo Wagner shoved by Hami, then kind of forearm punched in the back of the head by Killian.
Yeah, a lot of people said it was a full-on closed fist to the back of his head. Oh, that can kill him. Well, I mean, replay has proven that it looked more like a forearm to the back of the head.
Yep.
I mean, I definitely believe he was trying to connect with his fist, but I think it was the forearm that
I
landed.
mean, we all know he has accuracy issues. All right, let's not.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
But then Orlando's almost entire bench cleared. Ended up in what, like 9 suspensions.
I was like, I gotta find a way to watch the Magic's next game because this is gonna be hilarious. They ended up staggering the suspensions though, right? So they can
I have
play.
no idea.
I
don't know
think
how
they
ended
ended up
doing it.
staggering some of the
I
suspensions.
thought it was going to be reminiscent of like the COVID games last year, where
Those were
people had to like call
awful.
It was
Awesome,
like G League
but
teams
awful.
playing in the NBA.
I honestly
went to
thought
one
the
of them.
Magic were gonna have to. Oh, geez, ew. I honestly got.
It was a really good game. It was the game where Sadiq hit that game winner.
That's right.
Sorry, the shot sent in overtime, and then the Pistons won in overtime.
Yeah.
It was one of those like monster Sadiq games.
Yeah.
It was fun to watch because he was like the only guy playing, him and Hami. It was him, Hami, and a bunch of G Leaguers.
I honestly thought that the Magic were going to have to go to their local Lifetime Fitness and find some guys to put into the lineup. But I do think that they staggered their suspensions. I could be wrong on that. I thought when I was looking at the injury report that some guys were missing from that list.
Yep.
So,
But Killian suspended for 3 games. He just fulfilled that. So he should be ready for the next game. Hami suspended 1 game. Wagner suspended 2. And then everyone else suspended 1.
all Magic players beyond those two Pistons.
Yeah, because luckily it happened at the Pistons bench.
At the Pistons
There was
bench, right?
there was
They
no
can't
bench
leave
to
the bench
leave.
if it's there.
I think one of the funniest parts of that to me though was the look on Beef Stew's face once Mo Wagner kind of slumped over. There was like this look of oh shit on Beef Stew's face.
Now, okay,
But
let's just jump into that real quick.
yeah,
Do you think Mo Wagner was actually knocked out there? Because I don't. I think he just kind of fell over. I think he was already off balance, and then he got pushed in the back of the head, and he kind of just fell over into the.
There's a couple things here.
Bench.
If he did get knocked out, it actually looks like it probably happened on the shove, not the punch. Because
That's what I mean. It looks
the
like he
shove
was
is when you
already
see him like
off
start
balance.
like slumping. But I was listening to But in Cardigan Show today, the episode they dropped today, and James Edwards actually had a little bit of a conspiracy on this, where he doesn't believe that Mo Wagner was knocked out at all. And the reason behind this, he said, is, well, one is because of the shove, like how that appeared. But then two, you notice that the way concussions have been going in the in sports today, you would expect to hear something about concussion protocol, him
especially if a guy was
possibly
knocked out
having
from a punch
concussion
to the back of the head. That's a very there's a reason. Let me put it this way: there's a reason that in boxing a punch to the back of the head is illegal. It's very dangerous.
Mm-hmm. So while on the podcast, he did text the Orlando Magic beat writer asking if he's heard any word about Mo Wagner entering concussion protocol. Beat writer said no. There's been no word about Mo Wagner entering concussion protocol. Now, why would that be if he was actually knocked out?
Right. But what's the conspiracy?
That's the conspiracy, that he wasn't actually knocked out. That's that he kind of played dead.
But there's no reasoning for it. Like normally with a conspiracy, you have a reasoning for there to be the conspiracy.
Well, it could be a scary situation being on the other team's bench.
Fair. Okay, maybe he just didn't want to get jumped on. Yeah. That's fair. No, I don't think he was knocked out. I think if anything, with the way that the camera angles were, because we only saw a couple different angles in all reality, and the way they looked is. He looked like he was off balance, and I think the way that the camera was angled, it looked like maybe he got knocked out from the punch. But like, I don't really think he was. I think he was just already off balance, got pushed over, and he just kind of like accepted his fate and went down. Like he knew he was already going down. May as well just accept it. Maybe it was to play it up for the refs to throw somebody else out. I don't know, but.
That could be your conspiracy right there to try to
right. I don't buy that he was knocked out. It didn't look like it was that forceful, and it wasn't a punch. He did hit him with a forearm. I don't know. I think
we've seen more forceful hits in hockey,
and was accepting his fate that he was going to fall over. So we've seen more what?
More forceful hits in hockey.
Oh, almost all of them.
But yeah, but I will say about the situation, like, yeah, I do agree that Killian, like, while I do like the aggression of Killian Hayes, I don't think that going for the back of the head was the right move.
I'll be honest with you, it's Bush League by Killian, but he didn't want to get punked, and I feel that.
That's true, but that's what I'm saying. That's the positive I take from it is like finally this team shows some fight, even though it's literal. But finally, this team shows some
Isn't that what we thought about Isaiah Stewart going after LeBron too?
Yeah.
Like, finally, the team shows a little bit of heart.
Yeah.
Like,
can we bring back this, bad boy style culture? Like, can we bring back the narrative that Detroit's dirty?
Today's NBA. I'm sorry. As much as fun it would be, it ain't gonna fly in today's league. But like,
all this is gonna take less to get the label. That's all.
Is it also just me, or does it seem the response from this is that Mo Wagner looks like the punk in all this? I've seen a lot of people say that, Killian's a punk, but I've seen a lot of people say
a lot of publications were circling video of only the retaliation. No one, like a lot of publications were circling video that didn't even show what Mo Wagner did to begin with. Like, and that was kind of annoying. Me
putting my Pistons blinders on and sides, and then seeing Pistons response, but
no, I don't know if it does seem like. Again, this could be me putting my Pistons Kool-Aid goggles on. It seems like most of the narrative has been surrounding how bad the Pistons look rather than Mo Wagner. But I know the narrative here in this town has been about Mo Wagner, and how he's always been kind of a dirty guy since his Michigan days. But
can I ask this question, and maybe this is old head me talking, and I know we're feeding into this, but like, why does something like this have to be this big of a story? It
shouldn't.
Small fight. A kerfuffle, if you want to call it that.
Dude, I can't remember what publication it was, but I literally saw a post that literally called it the Mouse at LCA.
I saw that, and I started dying. Like, there was one forearm thrown, a couple shoves, and that was about it. I mean, it's just like, think about the highlights you see of the fights that used to happen in the 80s.
Yeah.
Like, those dudes would go up and sucker punch each other and then just have all out brawls.
Body slams. Like.
Right. Like that today, the thing that happened between Wagner and Hayes and Diallo, like that was nothing.
It was a nothing burger.
Yeah, like I don't know.
But it was such a story in this
I
town.
don't have an issue with, and I'll be honest with you. Like I get it, frustrations in the heat of the moment. I don't have a serious issue with Mo Wagner throwing the shove. You know, it is what it is. It's competitive sport. I don't have an issue with Hamidou Diallo shoving him back. I don't have an issue with Killian Hayes saying, "Oh no, you ain't gonna just punk me like that. I'm gonna come back at you." I have no issue with any of it. It's sports. It's competitive. They get at it. They go after each other. They compete. As long as it doesn't turn into anything like the Malice at the Palace, I'm good with it. Like, I don't like seeing guys do that stuff and get suspended. And, you know, I mean, for the Pistons, doesn't really matter. I mean, either team doesn't really matter. Let's be real. Like, it's not going to cost them anything. But I don't know. I think it's a non-issue. And if anything, it brought a little bit of excitement to our viewing of the Pistons Magic game.
Yeah. But since that, like including that game, Pistons have won 2 of the last 4. That's the good news.
Hooray,
they did
in the last 4.
They did against the Bulls. They did have a very Clippers-like ending to that game where they were very much in it with like 5 minutes to go, and then just completely blew it at the end. Ended up losing by 14, but. It all gets overshadowed to me by the Pistons game last night against the against the Trailblazers, where they came out and then they just looked like they didn't want to be there, and that's enough to sour me on any wins that I saw before, because that's the look that I always believe is inexcusable, and that again I believe falls on both the players and the coaches. The players have to have some sort of self-motivation when they come out to play, but it's also on the coaches to have them geared up to play too. But that's kind of been, it's not the first time we've seen that with this team this year. And it's why it makes it so hard to buy in this season to what's happening, and to like, it's dashing all the belief I had going into the season when I see something like that on the court.
Right. I mean, that game really does kind of kick the wind out of the sails. And you look at some of the guys that you were hoping would turn things around a little bit. I mean, you saw Sadiq Bey have a great performance coming off the bench against the Magic, putting up 28 points, 8 boards, 4 assists. Like that's probably the best game of his season in all reality. And then to follow that up with a couple of games of like 10 points, 13 points, 8 points, like he was terrible.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm starting to wonder, and I'm developing a little bit of a theory here, that the presence of Bojan Bogdanovic and Isaiah Stewart have all but replaced Sadiq Bey, offensively speaking, because they both do what Sadiq Bey likes to do at this point now, because Isaiah Stewart stepping outside, there's only so much room out there.
And if that's the case, it's a giant black mark on Sadiq, because it just tells you that the only way that he can reach his potential is if he's the sole go-to guy in the team. Anytime there's another shooter on the team, suddenly
we saw
it with Jeremy Grant, and is it because Bogey's there that all of a sudden he's not producing? Like, can he not exist without a scorer in the lineup? Like,
and I mean, Jeremy Grant, don't get me wrong, has looked pretty damn good with the Blazers, but he's also, you know, behind Dame and Simons, he's the number 3 guy there. So he still has to be a big time scorer, versus here in Detroit, you're honestly looking at like Bogey is number 1. And then you kind of have a competition between Ivy, Stewart, Bey, you know, Burks when he's on the floor, Killian when he feels like shooting. You know, you kind of get this, you know, who's the next in the pecking order. And that's where you'd kind of want to see Sadiq Bey step up and take that.
Yeah.
He's just not. You know, he's not. And when he's given the opportunities, he's not taking advantage of them either. You know, he's not hitting shots. He's shooting at like a 30% clip this year. Like, he's terrible. And he's not doing anything to justify giving him number 2 in the pecking order, in all honesty. Like, it's becoming more and more frustrating. He's 39.9% on the season. It's becoming more and more frustrating watching him play basketball, to be honest with you, because I want to see him succeed, and he's in the games where he's been given starter minutes. The last 2 games he's given starter minutes, 27 minutes against the Blazers, 9 points, 10 points in 31 minutes against the Bulls. And I understand that Actually, he probably was starting in all three of those. 'Cause those are the games Killian set out. But he's got to be better. The team's got to be better. Like, the game against the Blazers is honestly very disheartening because I thought they were showing a little bit of compete. I'm not going to say this team was going to compete their asses off at this going forward, but we saw them totally collapse against the Clippers, right? And then we saw them rebound and show some fight against the Magic, albeit the Magic are not a good basketball team. We saw them compete and hang with the Bulls for a little bit before collapsing late. Then had a good game again against the Timberwolves, and that one was a team effort. You had showings from Marvin Bagley, Sadiq Bey, 13, not great, but not terrible. 28 from Bogies, 28, 6, and 5. Your starters actually were largely ineffective. Your bench was great.
Yeah.
You had double figures from everybody who played off your bench. It shows how weak the starting unit is. I'll say that.
I mean, Alec Burks has been one of our best players.
He has. he honestly has. And, looking at this roster, I can't have expectations for them the rest of the year because the roster is really poor.
But I can have expectations on Troy Weaver to fix it.
I can too. Like, I absolutely have expectations on Troy Weaver to fix it, but like
this is not going to be acceptable next year.
Oh God, no! If they're this bad next year, I'd fire everybody.
Yeah, especially with
Weaver, everybody gone, go out. You're done.
Another getting Cade back, another year of Ivy and Duran.
But even Ivy hasn't looked that great. Like against the Wolves.
No, I know. I'm talking about just hoping development, your development on Ivy and Duran.
Right.
Like we're hoping it doesn't look like this next year.
And against the Bulls, Ivy actually did look pretty damn good. 22 points. He's very streaky.
He's not consistent yet. But not many rookies are consistent.
Right.
So that's why we're kind of giving him a pass, but harping on.
Right. I'm not going to sit here and yell about Jaden Ivey. Like I have seen good things and I've seen bad things, and I expect that from a rookie.
Yeah.
You just hope to see more good things than bad, and I think for the most part, you kind of have.
Did you see the recent Rod Beard article in the Net News?
I am not.
He wrote an article on Andre Drummond, and one of the quotes from said article said, from Drummond, said, "I would love to play back in Detroit near the end of my career just to close that chapter and go back home where I started."
No. No, thank you. 1, you're garbage. 2, I don't want you.
But he also had praise for Jalen Duren.
Rod Beard or Drummond?
Drummond.
Great.
So then that was going to be my question. Would you welcome Drummond back?
No.
Especially after Marvin Bagley got hurt.
Get out.
I think there's a no.
No, I don't want him anywhere near this team. I don't want him anywhere near Duren. Like, to be honest with you, I want nothing that Drummond can bring for Duren. Because Duren already does exactly what Andre Drummond did.
Yep.
Everything Drummond did, Duren does now. And he's 18 years old. And adds more defense. And he's 18 years old. So Drummond could bring zero value to Jalen Duren's game. And Drummond also, like, at times in his career, looked mentally not strong.
Which is not what we need on this team right now.
Thank you.
The vets that we want to bring in are vets that will be not just actual, scoring contributors, but mental leaders on this team.
Swan song moments are for players that did something. Andre Drummond did a whole lot of nothing here in Detroit. A lot of empty numbers and not a lot of wins. You haven't earned the right to have one of those swan song moments where you come back to the team that drafted you, to the hometown team. And, no, you haven't earned that. So stay out, please.
We did have 2 playoff appearances with him under center.
And what
no
happened
playoff wins.
Exactly. What happened in those playoff series? I believe we got swept both times. I'm good. You did nothing here. You don't deserve it. Please stay away. Thank you. That is all.
But that's about all I have on the Pistons. Let's say.
Not much to talk about there. They suck.
Yeah.
Love them. They suck. Anyways, let's move on. It is sad.
It's going very hard to watch.
I'll be honest with you. There are some nights where it is absolutely miserable to watch that team. And there are some nights where I will be straight and say that it's actually impossible to watch them.
This is my rule. If I'm watching and I'm seeing them actually put in a good effort on the basketball court, I watch. If I see them throw games away like they did against Portland, I stop watching. Because if they don't care, I don't care.
Fair. I just they're a boring team to watch.
Yeah.
Even when they play at their best, they're pretty boring.
Yeah.
I think that's a lack of Cade being in there, the superstar presence, to be honest with you. But either way, they're a boring team to watch. They're not fun. Anyways, let's move on to the Lions here. A team that is fun to watch. The Lions are coming off of a truly dominant victory up against the Chicago Bears this past Sunday. It may have been one of the least stressful games I have ever watched as a Lions fan. I saw them dominate pretty much in every facet of the game. Jared Goff continued to play extremely well. We're getting more production out of the tight ends. Our thrown together bag of tight ends than we ever got from TJ Hawkinson. Our offensive line, once again, dominant. Defensive line looked the best I think it's ever looked. 7 sacks. You had 2 interceptions. 1 interception and a fumble recovery, if I recall. Now that I think about it. It was just fun. The running game was great. The passing game was great. The defense was great. You made Justin Fields not feel good about anything. And yeah, he ran all over you in the first half. You limited him in the second half. You figured it out. Some of that could have been due to the fact that he may have hobbled himself a little bit in that first half, but you took advantage. And what a find James Houston has been. What a find. 8 sacks in 7 games now.
We were like
6th round pick.
Like we were already praising this draft class, and then that was very early on in James Houston's rise to what he has become in his 6 games that he's played.
6, 7, I don't know how many it is.
It's just making
6.
It's just making this draft class like that much better.
The Lions this upcoming weekend have possibly the biggest game that we have seen in Detroit since the wild card playoff game in 2014. This is it. This is a playoff game at this point. Because you have an opportunity, and yes, it's been flexed to Sunday Night Football, which makes it honestly even more exciting. You have an opportunity, if the Rams somehow find a way to beat the Seahawks, you have a winner-take-all game between the Lions and Packers in Lambeau Field on Sunday night in Week 18. That's a storybook situation. The NFL could not script it better than that. Old school, bitter division rivals in an old school, bitterly cold January football game in one of the most historic stadiums in your league.
Yeah, and a night game.
Which I'll be honest with you, and I said it last week, and I'll still say it. I am terrified of the Packers right now. I'm scared of what Aaron Rodgers can do. He's proven that he's pretty much back, and he looks very confident.
Yeah, I'm not.
Arrogant,
I can't honestly. I can if you ask me to pick who's going to win this game, I'm picking the Packers. This is not the type of game the Lions historically win.
I'll tell you what, though.
Primetime game, already we don't normally win those. In Lambeau, we don't normally win those.
Right.
Put together.
I'll tell you what, though.
Yeah.
This year, you look at the stats. On paper, the Lions should win this game. Running game, I believe the Lions are every bit as good as the Packers, if not better. They're about to have a 1,000-yard rusher in Jamal Williams for the first time since Reggie Bush. And if Jamal Williams has a similar game to what he had last week, he will have the best rushing season from a Lions player, I believe, since 2004. Yeah, since Kevin Jones. Yeah. Can you name the player that had the best rushing season in a Lions uniform since Barry Sanders in 98?
It's not Javid, because he never played long. I don't think he ever played a full season.
Javid Best never amassed more than 600 and something rushing yards.
What's his face? Not Kevin Jones. Kevin
was not Kevin Smith. So, give you an idea. 2004. Kevin Jones had it was not in 2004. But in 2004, Kevin Jones had 1,133 yards. Right now, Jamal Williams is 994. If he gets 149 yards or 100 whatever yards, he passes that number, which would give him the best rushing total since this player did it in the year 2000.
So this is the year Barry retired. Who the hell was a running back in 2000?
Year after Barry retired, actually.
Yeah, he retired in 99. I don't know who the running back was.
James Stewart.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
1,184 yards and 10 touchdowns. And then Barry was the next best at 1,491 in 98. So, and nobody outside of Barry has hit the 16 touchdown mark. And Barry did it way back in 91. That's a pretty damn good season for a running back. And it's exciting.
Jamal Williams, Barry Sanders 2.0.
Something even more exciting. If Jared Goff has a similar game to what he had last week, he honestly doesn't even need to be that good. Let's say 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. You could honestly say that Jared Goff has had a better season this year than any of Matthew Stafford's years here, besides maybe you can argue 2011. Jared Goff will have had a better year as a quarterback than any of Matt Stafford's years outside of maybe one.
I wonder if we had this coaching staff, right, in like 2011.
Well, 2011, you had Jim Schwartz. Your next best season was probably would have been 2014.
Under Caldwell.
Which he did have some solid years, those under Caldwell. I mean, 2015, 4,262 yards, 13 touchdowns, 13 picks.
In terms of past Lions coaches, I feel like Dan Campbell's probably most like Jim Schwartz.
I don't really know.
Jim Schwartz was more hot-headed.
Yeah, and also I don't think Jim Schwartz was as good of a motivator.
Oh, that's what I was comparing. I thought Jim Schwartz was a good motivator.
In comparison to the type of coach they are, I would probably say he's closer to a Jim Caldwell, but he does it differently. Obviously, they both are players coaches. They both are guys that players want to play for. They're leaders among men. They are, guys that get your guy. Players want to get up and play for. I don't quite know that was the case with Jim Schwartz. I know it was with Jim Caldwell. Yeah. They just had different philosophies of going about it. One was by being a true lead by example type of guy, and Dan Campbell is a true motivating person. Like he riles you up. He's the guy you want in your corner.
He's like having Walter Goggins as your head coach.
Basically. He's your hype man. Dan Campbell is your hype man.
Caldwell might have put you to sleep in the locker room.
He may have. A little decorum here. But I mean, you're looking at a truly impressive season from Jared Goff. This is the best season he's had since he went to the Super Bowl with the Rams. And there's no question about that. I'm honestly kind of shocked with what we've seen, and he's been able to protect the football, which was a big knock against him. He can't protect the football. He hasn't thrown a pick in 7 games. Knock on wood that continues. Stafford, in any season that he played at least 14 games, I want to say, I don't think he had any less than 10 picks in a season.
But the other argument you can also make is you can argue this offensive line is better than any that Stafford played behind. Right?
Yes, you can definitely make that argument. There's no question about that. But Stafford also had a Calvin Johnson.
Yep.
Goff doesn't have anything close to that. I mean, Amon-Ra is awesome. He ain't even close to Calvin Johnson.
Is Goff approaching 5,000 yards passing? Or
no, but he's at 4,200. So he could realistically hit 4,500 this year, which Stafford only hit 4,500 3 times in his entire career in a Lions uniform. And it was 2011, 2012, 2013. He never hit 4,500 again.
So, the prime Calvin Johnson years.
Yeah. So, and then Stafford only hit 30 touchdowns.
Even 2013, you could probably consider that late Calvin Johnson.
Yeah. But
twice. So you're talking about 2015, Calvin?
I think so. 2014,
that long.
I think. Yeah, it's been a while.
Christ.
But Stafford only hit 30 touchdowns twice in his career in a Lions uniform. 2011 and 2015. I think that was the Marvin Jones Golden Tate year where they both hit 1,000 yards. Goff's going to hit 30 touchdowns with Amon-Ra St. Brown, and his next best receiver is Khalif Raymond. Next highest receiver is Khalif Raymond in terms of yardage. That's impressive, if you ask me.
Yeah, we've barely targeted Jameson Williams. He's got one target a game?
He has 1 catch the entire season, I believe.
Yeah, he had
the 41-yard touchdown.
They give him that reverse.
Yeah, he's got to run.
Now, 1 catch, 1 carry.
And he had a play get thrown to him, a deep ball that Jared Goff underthrew.
I thought he was taking that reverse play to the house.
I did too.
No one's catching
him. Speed, I ain't going to lie. But for all intents and purposes, Jared Goff's had a better football season than Aaron Rodgers. Safe to say that you would take Amon-Ra St. Brown over any of the Packers receivers?
At this moment in time, yes.
Is there a
I
Packers
am
tight
very
end?
intrigued by Christian Watson.
I am too. And I'd probably take him number 2 behind in terms of the
But
receiving.
then again, we don't know what Christian Watson, what Amon-Ra St. Brown looked like with Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball. So
Jared Goff's played better than Rodgers this year.
yeah.
He has. He's got better numbers. Looked better.
Yeah.
Hasn't turned the ball over as much. And Rodgers had a pretty decent season. I mean, it's not Rodgers-esque. He's got just under 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, 11 picks. Compare that to last year. He had 41, 15, 37, and 4. Like that. That's a good season. But clearly Rodgers turning the ball over quite a bit more this year.
Yeah.
Obviously, you would take the Packers running backs over ours. There's no question about that. But, I mean, Jamal Williams has played really, really well.
Yeah.
And DeAndre Swift even looked pretty damn good against the Bears.
I don't think like you have to go like this technical. Like just on paper, we know that the Packers can be run against. They are vulnerable against the run.
Absolutely.
And they're not that great against pass either. Like they're like
they did shut down Jetta. They did shut down Jay Jetta this past week. Entirely shut him down.
I should rephrase. Outside of Jair Alexander, they're not that great against it.
Right. No, I 100%. I honestly, if you can,
do you think we do what we did against the Jets, where we just we never threw Sauce Gardner's way at all that whole game? Do you think that's kind of the way Dan Campbell?
I don't think Jair Alexander deserves that level of respect. I don't think he's Sauce Gardner good. I think you can test Jair Alexander, and I think you can make him make mistakes. I think it will take the best game schematically out of the Lions coaching staff, but I don't think it's a situation where he can't throw his way. I think a good receiver can beat him. He just played the game of his life against Justin Jefferson. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is capable of beating him, though. I think he's crafty enough. I mean, didn't we see it earlier?
How do you not get a taunting penalty for grittying over Justin Jefferson's body? It's on the ground.
Good question. I think if the Lions pass rush can do what they did against the Bears, albeit the Packers offensive line is better than the Bears offensive line. I'm not saying the Packers offensive line is great by any measure, but it's better than the Bears. I think you throw me at left tackle and I'd do better. Fun fact, I believe their left tackle is Riley Reif. I think if our pass rush can get in the backfield and make Aaron Rodgers uncomfortable, he is not as mobile as he used to be.
Yep.
And he doesn't have that safety blanket type guy that he can throw the ball to and, it's automatic 5-6 yards. If you make Aaron Rodgers uncomfortable, he makes mistakes, and he's proven that this year.
Yeah.
So if you can get into the backfield and mess him up, mess up his timing, mess up his rhythm, you can frustrate him. And I think if he gets frustrated, he turns on his teammates a little bit. So
he does. We've seen it. We saw it in Ford Field.
This is a winnable game for the Lions. I am scared. I'll be honest with you. I am nervous about Aaron Rodgers being as confident as he is, but I want to see a Lions victory so bad, and I want to be rewarded.
I don't care. Losing. Yeah, I was about saying, even if the Seahawks, do the expected and beat the Rams, I still really badly want to keep Aaron Rodgers out of the playoffs.
I do too. Dan Campbell's going to go into this game regardless of if Seattle won. And damn well he's going to say, this is your playoff game. This is it right here. You have a chance to knock out your division rival. And probably going into next season, there's a really high likelihood the Lions could be the favorite to win the NFC North if you close out this season with the win, regardless if you make the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, at that point, it'd be like if we go in and beat Green Bay in Lambeau on prime time, I'm going in next season with the expectation of you winning your division next year.
Oh yeah, you better be competing for division. You better be playing.
Oh yeah, no, right now I'm ready with the space. You better be competing for it. But if you go in and beat Green Bay in Lambeau, I'm like, unquestioned, you are the best team in this division.
Oh, without a doubt.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
You should have beat Minnesota already in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And then you beat them at your home on your home turf. You beat Green Bay twice at that point. You beat Chicago twice. You only lost one game to your division opponents. Yeah, you should be the favorite to win the division at that point.
And it's a game you gave away.
Right.
But let's talk about the Seahawks game for a second.
Before you get into that, I want to kind of give props to Dan Campbell and this Lions coaching staff because I gave him a challenge probably 5 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago. I needed 8 wins for me to be on board with you. For me to get back in and be on the Dan Campbell train and chug along, I need 8 wins, and you hit that with 1 to go, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I am all aboard the Dan Campbell train. I'm back on 100%.
Yeah.
There's no getting off it for me at this point. No getting off. I'm in. Let's go.
Yeah. Such an asshole. As soon as I get off, he gets full speed.
Right?
He's like, see ya.
He just left your ass in the dust. So let's go ahead and get into Seattle. What do you got there?
Yeah, so Seattle's touchdown favorites against the Rams, and probably rightfully so. They're the ones playing for their playoff lives, and they're at home. But I will be honest, there's a lot of Lions fans writing this off as like, yeah, there's no way Seattle loses. You do look at the Rams and you see with Baker last 4 games. They've been a
Rams seem
bit of a different team,
quite a bit different with Baker than they were.
They did play Seattle about a month ago, and that was a pretty close game, and that was with Wolford under center. So like it's not unrealistic that the Rams could pull the upset here, and it's still a division game. So the Rams are going to want to be playing spoiler as much as we're going to want to be playing spoiler if Seattle wins. So I mean, I just hope that they come out and, approach it with the intensity that I would expect them to.
I really don't doubt that they're going to come out and put up, an intense game. And you look at that game, that Rams-Seahawks game about a month ago. The Rams had John, as you mentioned, John Wolford under center. He went 14-26 for 178 yards, 2 picks, no touchdowns. They only lost by 4.
Yeah,
Cam Akers had a 2-touchdown game. You forced an interception. Bobby Wagner had a pick in that one. You forced the Seahawks to be quite uncomfortable in that one. And, you're also talking about that was the best game Geno Smith has played since, let me put it this way. He has not been anywhere near as good since as he was in that game. He threw 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, and 367 yards. Since then, he hasn't even touched 270 yards passing.
Now, was that the game that Kenneth Walker got hurt? I'm trying to remember.
Hang on. I'm going to assume so because DJ Dallas had 10 carries and Walker only had 3. So there is that caveat there that they do have Kenneth Walker back going full blast. Like he's a monster. But, again, this is not the same Geno Smith that we saw earlier on in the year.
Yeah.
He's nowhere near as good. He had a good game against the Jets, 183 yards, 2 touchdowns, but that's not 360 yards. He threw the ball 40 times against the Chiefs, 215 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Threw the ball 44 times against the 49ers, 238 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks.
Yep.
He's not the same guy.
Yeah.
He's just not. The Seahawks have kind of fallen off a little bit.
Yeah, they've only won 2 of their last 7.
And one of those is against the Rams and John Wolford.
Yep. And the other one was just this past weekend against the Jets. And a game that I was actually legitimately expecting the Jets to come out and win with Mike White finally back. But Mike White
put up an egg.
Yep. Mike White looked like, what's his face out there?
Yeah. Largely
the second round pick. Zach Wilson. There we go.
Yes.
Jesus.
Largely that Geno Smith has had a really good season. He's not had a great last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And the Rams, on the other hand, have looked significantly better in their last 4 weeks. I mean, you saw what they did to the Broncos.
Yeah.
Dominated them. 51-14. Yes, the Packers beat them up. Yes, the Chargers beat them up. They beat the Raiders, who the Raiders kind of suck, but 2-2. They're 2-2 in their last 4. Let's hope they can make it 3-2. Help the Lions out one last time, because you already helped us out with the draft pick last year. Now we get another draft pick this year. Help us out one last time, please. Come on, Baker.
I didn't
said some awful things about you on this show and your football playing abilities, but please, one time, just do something good for me.
I didn't hop on the Detroit Rams train at any point last year, but I'm a Detroit Ram this weekend.
I will be cheering for the Rams this week. No question about it. It's a 4:30 game. I almost wish it was like a 1:00 game so I could get it out of the way. Get, if the Seahawks win, I have a chance to just get over the fact that, all right, we're done. Now let's just, go on and play spoiler to the Packers. I have a chance to just let it absorb. But the caveat to that is if it was a 1:00 game and the Rams won, the nervousness, the nerves that would build through those 4 o'clock games to the night game would just be insane.
I would be just watching that game through my fingers.
But it is 4:30 game. And there's, it's obvious it's 4:30 game considering they're both on the West Coast. Would you, question for you, and this was posed on 97 and take this afternoon on my way home. Would you have rather both games be a 4:30 game so that you can play out the playoff implications in real time? That would be.
I'll be honest with you, like in terms of like logistically, like teams playing for something making more sense. Yeah, that is the more sensible route to go. But I'm not going to complain about the Lions finally.
They're getting
a primetime game.
They're getting some respect. I will say I do think that it would take out the possibility of the Lions not being as fired up on Sunday night if the Rams don't pull out a victory. I don't think that's too big of an issue, but I mean, some guys may be defeated mentally if that happens.
Yeah.
But
as good as motivated as Dan Campbell is, you cannot assume players' mental states.
Right. Well, and honestly, if you're not all there mentally, maybe you're just not mentally tough enough to be an NFL player. Just throw it out there.
This team has taken that stance. They've been pulling players who so much as missing an assignment. They're like, all right, get out. You're replaced.
Speaking of which, did you see Jeff Okuda only played like 30% of the snaps this past week?
Yeah, it looks like he got banged up.
Whoa, he hasn't played a lot the last couple weeks, though.
Yeah, like I remember there was a lot of speculation. Did he get pulled like because he missed an assignment on that Justin Fields run? And then it got clarified that he got banged up on that play.
I hadn't heard that he had gotten banged up, but even against the Panthers, he didn't play a whole bunch.
That I think he actually got pulled.
Is there any kind of cause for concern there?
I don't know.
He has not been the same guy for like 6 weeks now that we were, raving about as, resurging his career throughout the first 12 weeks of the season or 11 weeks of the season. He's not been anywhere near as good the last 6. You concerned about that at all?
You're not wrong. And is it concerning? Yeah, because of the fact that like he was, at least to start the season, the MVP of what otherwise was a pretty putrid defense. But like you're taking solace in the fact that, okay, at least we have one hopefully really good corner on this team. And if he reverts back to Jeff Okuda under Matt Patricia, then this is like he's playing for his career right now. Like this is not a time to like there are no chances after this. Like either he closes out the season strong or there's questions.
All right. So do you have anything else to add before we go into the final question of the night here?
Well, I want to get into the spread and stuff, but
okay, that was going to be my question.
Okay.
Well, first, before you do that, what do the Lions need to do to beat Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau?
Control the ground.
Okay, that is a big one because if you can control the ground over the Packers, that's huge.
Because and I think that's like their big, in my opinion, their biggest weak spot is.
I'm going to add to the control the ground. I'm going to add control the trenches.
There you go. Number 2, I think you got to. You've been doing this, but move ASB around a lot on that offense.
You got to find ways to scheme him open away from Jair Alexander. Yeah,
because like I know you said he doesn't deserve the respect that Sauce gets, but at the same time, I don't want to play with fire. If I can scheme him outside away from Jair Alexander, that's what I'm doing.
Fair. I agree with that.
And number 3, ball control. I want to keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands as much as possible.
I'm gonna go with control the trenches. And ipso facto, you control the running game.
Yeah.
I like the scheming of Amon-Ra St. Brown open. I'm also gonna go with protect the football and force the other team to make mistakes. So don't commit turnovers on your end because if you do, Aaron Rodgers will kill you.
Yeah.
And 2, if you can force Aaron Rodgers to make mistakes, and by doing that, controlling the line, controlling the trenches, you get into the backfield, force him to throw some picks and make mistakes.
So it all comes back to leaning on the run. That's it's the safest way to play it. You chew up the most clock that way.
If the Lions run,
and especially when you're talking about being in the elements, I think it's going to be like 25 degrees. It's
going to be chilly
at night. So
if the Lions are able to control you look at the Lions' offense when the running game is going. it opens up the playbook in a way where
Yep.
Jared Goff is at his best. He's honestly very good in play action passing. And you can cause a lot of issues for the defense if you have the running game going. Field's wide open for those play fakes to get guys like St. Brown open or your tight ends open, or let's hope for a Jameson Williams bomb. Those types of plays are a lot easier to make when your running game's moving along quite nicely.
Defensively, though, I'm not as sure what your key is there, because I want to say
you got to stop the run. One, you can't let them get into a tempo, and two, you got to get into the backfield. You got to make Aaron Rodgers uncomfortable. If you can do that, the wide receivers are not going to beat you.
Yeah, because outside of Aaron Rodgers, the most dangerous weapon on that team is Aaron Jones. My concern is, though, like, if you focus too much on stopping the run, like, Aaron Rodgers can obviously beat you.
I don't think this is a situation where, like, versus the Bears, you could definitely tell that schematically the Lions just were, especially in the second half, Justin Fields had no idea what the hell was going on. I mean, you look at the play just before halftime where Lions rushed 0 and just dropped everybody into coverage. Justin Fields had no idea what the hell to do. Like, he was just like,
it was hilarious. He threw a pick with no pressure.
They didn't rush anybody. Hey, honestly, at that point, you got to just like throw the ball away, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think you're going to get into the situation where you're going to be able to confuse Aaron Rodgers too much. There's not much this guy hasn't seen. So I think schematically, if you just coach a solid game, you scheme up a lot of good blitzes around the offensive with your defensive line and your good pass rushers and Aiden Hutchinson and James Houston. I think you can find a way to make Aaron Rodgers uncomfortable that isn't necessarily scheme related. You know what I mean? It is scheme related because you got to scheme up the blitzes properly, but it's not like you're going to throw him any wrinkles in your defensive backfield by making him think zone, but you're playing man. Like, he's going to see all that. So you just got to, play man on and just play down and dirty football. Like, just get in there, get dirty, get tough, just be better. Now,
looking back at our game a couple months ago against the Packers in Ford Field, that was a very scrappy, grinded out 15-9 victory for the Lions. You look at the over-under this coming week, second highest total of the week at 49.5.
Two different ball clubs.
Yeah, like that's what I was going to ask. Are you siding with Vegas here and thinking this is going to be more of like a 27-23 type of game, or
they wouldn't? Are you going total, with they wouldn't put total this high if there wasn't a reason for it. You got two different ball clubs here.
Yeah, obviously a reason for it. Basically, what I'm getting at is you taking the over or the under.
I'm probably going to stay away from the total just because I don't really like cold weather games for totals. I tend to stay away from it. If anything, I may tease the under up to like a 51.5 or 50.5 and take the under and kind of parlay that with something else. But I don't like the totals in outdoor cold weather games because I don't like rooting for unders either way.
Lions do have a tendency to hit the over, but we've seen the Lions offense in cold weather games. I'm not gonna rely on so if I were to take a side, I'm taking the side of the under.
Right. Do you like the Lions in a low scoring game? They did beat the Packers once already with it.
Yeah, I do. Low scoring game means they control the ball. Because I do believe the more opportunities Aaron Rodgers gets, he is capable of picking apart the secondary. So
I agree with you. Yeah, I can see that.
I believe a low scoring game is the type of game the Lions are going to be shooting for.
I can see that. I agree with that. What's the spread at right now? We can close out with that.
4.5.
4.5 Packers minus. Who do you got?
My brain tells me to take the Packers, but I really don't want to. And I know you're not supposed to bet with your heart. You're supposed to bet with your brain. But I'm too bought in. I'm going Lions plus 4.5.
I'm also going to take Lions plus 4.5, and I'm not even going to hesitate. My brain and my gut tell me this. And I'm not saying the Lions are going to win outright, but I think the 4.5 is too much for a rivalry game in Week 18 and a potential winner-take-all or a winner-spoil type deal. I think that's just too many points. I think this is a situation where you could look at a last-second field goal to win the game by 2, 3, 1. I think 4.5. Extending beyond that 2.5 for me is where I would. Like, if it was Packers minus 2.5, I'd take the Pack. Anything above that, I'm going with the Lions.
Do you know if you parlay Rams money line and Lions money line this week, currently on FanDuel, those odds are plus 879 for just a 2-leg parlay.
Oh, that's fun. Oh, that's so fun. You know what though? Like honestly, if there was any if you were a big NFL conspiracy guy out there, and you thought that there were certain games the NFL rigs,
you bet the Rams money line.
These games would be the ones where you could say that you could rig them, and the reason I say that is because one,
for Sunday night ratings,
the Sunday night ratings in a Lions Packers winner take all in Lambeau on Sunday night in the cold, the frozen tundra, like that right there is a football lover's wet dream. Like I said, classic organizations with huge implications. Aaron Rodgers potentially getting in the playoffs. You have the WWE personality that the NFL has created with Hard Knocks and Dan Campbell going head to head. Like that is everything the NFL has ever wanted. That Roger Goodell is just in his chair, just enjoying himself a little bit too much at this possibility. So yeah, if there was ever a situation where you could think that the NFL is scripted, that if the Rams beat the Seahawks, well, there may be something to that, because that would be the perfect situation. The perfect storm for the NFL would be a Packers-Lions Sunday night game in Week 18 winner take all. Like that is the perfect scenario.
I just can't believe that last week we were cheering for the Jets and the Vikings, and both teams looked utterly lifeless. Like it wasn't even neither of you even made a competition out of their
because
games.
Of it. What did it set up?
Well, you know what? If the Jets could have at least won, this would be even better right now.
Well, now you get it but now you get the West Coast implications involved. The one argument for the scripting of the Seahawks to win this game is if the Rams won that game, you could potentially lose the West Coast.
Yeah.
The Seahawks win that game, every single fan on the West Coast is watching because it's either the Packers or the Seahawks going to the playoffs. And you're not going to lose the Lions fans because they're already in it.
Yeah.
So there could be your implications as well for scripting it. But who knows? It could go either way at that point. But
so the NBA lottery, you can come up with a story for a lot of teams. So.
You really could. You absolutely could. You can make a case for anything here. But no, I'm taking the Lions plus the 4.5. I am. I honestly think and hope the Lions can pull this out right, but I definitely think 4.5 is too many points to give the Lions in this game.
I hope it's too many points to give the Lions in this game.
I hope 0 is too many points to give the Lions in this game.
But it did open at 3.5. It's been bet up to 4.5. So
that's fine.
Really not a great side.
That's fine. I still believe. We've come this far. I can't get off the train. Yeah. I'm already on. We've left the station. So I may as well ride it, right?
May as well.
Anyways, that is a call for this week, folks. Thank you for listening. Happy New Year to all of you. Let's hope for a Lions victory this weekend. That would just be amazing. And a Rams victory this weekend. That would be even better. Send this Lions team, this MCDC team, coached Lions team into the playoffs.
It would have been so fun if Stafford was actually under center and we got to root for Matt Stafford one more time.
I won't even acquiesce that with.
To actually have a good reason to root for Matt Stafford. I'm not talking about the fake people rooting for Matthew Stafford.
I don't want to root for Matthew Stafford ever again.
Fail.
Let's go Baker Mayfield. Obviously, I would root for Matt Stafford if it meant that it would help the Lions make the playoffs. But anyways, if Matt Stafford was still there, it would probably be a totally different scenario. Let's be real. Yeah. You'd be looking at the Rams probably in a playoff situation. But anyways, thank you guys for listening. We hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a good one. Have a good weekend. You can follow us on Twitter at Real Fan Report. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast at Detroit Podcast as always. We will catch you guys next week. This has been the Fan Reporters. Bye, fans.
For fans.
Have a good one, guys. Let's go Lions. Peace out.
Peace.